Good evening, everyone. We're glad you could join us for today's session on upskilling for the future. Let me begin by introducing our speaker for today, Vijaya Ghosh. Vijaya brings with her over 20 years of consulting experience, 2 decades spent transforming how businesses think, decide, and grow using the power of data. She's led from the front as managing director at Accenture and has helped global consumer brands unlock real, sustainable value by making data not just a tool but a strategic advantage. Vijaya's journey spans both worlds the agility of startups like Marketex, Manthan, Antui, and Bridge Eye to Eye, and the scale of technology powerhouses like IBM, TCS, and Accenture. She doesn't just follow innovation, she builds it, leads it, and most importantly, makes it matter. Please join me in welcoming Vijaya Ghosh. Before we start today's session, I request that our learners post their questions in the Q&A tab. We will try to address as many as possible if the time permits. At the end of this session, we will also display 3 polls on your screen and request that you actively participate in these polls to help us understand your grasp of what was covered in the webinar. Correct answers will then be displayed once the polls have been answered. With that in mind, here's a very warm welcome to you, Vijaya. We're glad to have you present at the Industry Interaction webinar. Over to you for the main session.
Thank you, Meghna. Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. Great to see a lot of participation. And this topic I think is something that has once AI is out of the box, and now we have AI everywhere, whether it's on our phones or on our on our mobile devices. Everywhere that we see, I think the big worry that has come is how do you then keep yourself upskilled? I mean, in the past, it used to be that whatever you learned, you did a degree, you did masters, and then you pretty much carried on with that. And in most cases, people actually didn't have to upskill; they just wrote on what they had learned, and then their experience, and that counted. But today, we are seeing a very different world where experience, as such, is not as important as the ability to be able to acquire new skills rapidly. And in fact, most people now who are in the middle of their career are now thinking whether they are relevant anymore. And the young workforce which is coming through the colleges are wondering whether their college curriculum is actually relevant to what is being used at work. So that is the cusp that we are in today. And so that, if we can move to the next slide. This is a question that we are all asking. If 50% of today's jobs will change or disappear in the next 5 years, what other skills do we need? Today, the world is being rapidly reshaped by AI, automation, digital transformation. So, the world, which is so dynamic, in that scenario, how do I keep myself updated? And this funny meme quite well captures it. While we were very happy that, ChatGPT could do our homework, but then think about it, ChatGPT can do your work as well. So what is it that you would do? And if ChatGPT stays one step ahead of you, then where does that leave you in terms of doing the work? And today, in fact, we've been hearing companies saying that they want to replace their CIOs with CEOs with AI CEO. They don't want workforce, and then they want only AI to actually do the work. And then we have the other naysayers, where we find that the company there's an example of a company which 2 years ago made a bold statement that they're not going to hire people anymore, they're only going to hire AI, and use AI to actually do all their work. And 2 years later, they are actually now going back to hiring people. And when they realize that we do need people. So the thing is, the future, I believe, and I'm a very big optimist, I don't believe that AI ever will replace people, as this oft quoted, this quote from Ginny Rometty from IBM says that AI will not replace humans, but humans that do not use AI will be replaced. So that's where we are, where we are looking at rapid technology change. We are looking at AI becoming ubiquitous everywhere, and we are looking at new skills, new technology, new areas coming at such a fast pace, that how do you keep yourself future proofed? What do you learn? How do you learn? and how do you keep yourself ahead of the curve so that you stay relevant. And it's no longer today, learning is no longer something that you would do as a nice to have. It is something that your HR calls you for, or there is something that is a certification that you just pick up to just add to your degree. It's no longer that. It is pure survival today. Today, continuous learning, lifelong learning is a survival tool, and I wish that all of you get into that bandwagon. And if you think about my experience myself, if I think about it, if I look back at my career, of course, I started much before most of you who have joined here. I'm looking back at 20 years ago or rather 22 years ago. I passed out from SP Jain doing my MBA, and that time it was very set that you would either go into marketing or supply chain, or you would go into HR, or you would go into finance. These were the sort of careers that we looked at. And I joined right after my MBA, I joined Tata Motors as a marketing manager. And that was my dream job, that was my dream career. And I was well settled, and that's where it was, and I was working as a marketing manager with Tata Motors. But 2 years later, I realized that I was not really enjoying my work, and I was looking for something new. And there was this company, a startup called Marketix, which had just opened in Bangalore. And those were very, very early days. As I'm talking 2005, 2004, 2005, very early days of startups in Bangalore. It wasn't the Silicon Valley that we tout it to be today. And this company sitting here was actually working on data driven decision making, on data science models, which they were delivering to leading CPG companies across the world. It was a very different model. It was a very challenging thing. And I had to upskill myself, obviously, because I was while what helped me was, while they were looking for domain consultants who understood marketing as a domain, and therefore I joined them. But the work that we were doing of looking at data, of looking, I had to upskill myself. In those days, we used to use SPSS, SAS, and all. So I had to upskill myself on that, on statistics, on understanding of statistics, on being able to create those models. And this is what I learned, and it was new, it was very different. But if I think about it, it was something that helped me in great stead today. And today, when AI and analytics has become mainstream today, that decision that I took 22 years ago to actually makes me some of the one of the early moving early I had the first mover advantage there, or the early mover advantage there. And today, that is what I'm reaping, and that shows in the kind of career growth that I have seen in my career. And I would say it's all because I chose that. Even though at that point in time I was doing the best, I was in a top big school in India, I was doing I was in a very sought after profession of marketing. But I also realized that there is something else which is coming in. I wouldn't say that I was a very big futurist that time, I wouldn't claim that. But what I can definitely tell you, that that step that I took to learn, to come out of my comfort zone, to learn something completely new. I wasn't from a programming background, but I learned SPSS, I learned SAS, I wasn't from a statistics background, but I learned statistics. I learned how to build models and how to interpret them. But that has now helped me in good stead. And I would say it is the same thing for you, because the lesson that I learned 22 years ago is the lesson that today is become commonplace and for all of us to follow. So that, if you can move to the next slide, please. So this is the agenda that we're going to cover today, right? So why is there a need for, why do we have to do continuous upskilling today? I mean, is it not enough that we have studied, we've started school, we've started college, and we've got a degree, and now with that degree, should we not just not sit tight on that? But no. But what is the need for continuous upskilling? What are the in-demand skills today? Again, as I said, this is in demand today. Tomorrow there will be much more, and a lot more new things that are going to come in. How to create a personalized roadmap. And I would like to talk to you about some of the resources that you can use, such as the smart upskilling template. How can you have, which are the learning resources and formats that you can go to. And I will give you one example on how to use AI tools for upskilling yourself. And then, of course, how to remain a lifelong learner and learning to learn. And this is what we're going to discuss in the next 30, 40 minutes or so. What is the need for continuous upskilling? As I was saying, see, when we were in college, even when I was picking up when I came into the workforce as well, I learned SAS, I learned SPSS, but I knew that at least it is going to be there for at least 4 5 years. But today, today the shelf life is becoming shorter and shorter. And though I've said 2 to 5 years, some of them, while are staying, like for example, Python has stayed for quite some time now. However, there are new tools which are coming up, and we are talking about Gen AI, and already Gen AI seems to have run its course, and now we're talking about agentic AI. The pace of change has become much faster, so therefore the shelf life of skills has also reduced, and therefore you have to learn new skills most of the time. And today, of course, we have hybrid and remote work, and therefore most of us are able to manage much more today. And this whole office work that used to be there, where a lot of time was spent on commute and stuff like that, is now getting replaced by smarter companies who are choosing to be hybrid or remote, which is actually giving you the flexibility to do much more. But also it is putting a pressure on you that there is always that you are being viewed as good as you are as good as your skills. And if there is somebody else who has come in, who's actually learned more, done more, they are actually overtaking. And today, most of the organizations follow meritocracy. It is no longer about saying that, what, I'm a fresher, I just came from college, I will spend 2 years in this role, then I will look at the next level, etc., etc. You find that the fresh young batch which is coming in today is actually taking over the roles of some of the people who are their seniors in the college. And this is something that we are seeing all the time, and that's what is actually happening today. And if you look at it, most companies, they used to advertise for degrees. It's no longer degrees anymore, it is skills more than degrees. And there was a time when people write out and say that, what, I'm from a top engineering college, or I'm from a top business school, so therefore I need to command a higher salary than any of the others. It's no longer so today. If you have the hot skills, if you have the relevant hot skills that the companies are looking for, you would actually be more sought after than those which with all those high-fi degrees that people have. Because degrees today don't mean as much as skills, and therefore it is the hot skills that you need to continuously pick up. And those people who have the ability to actually learn faster, to be able to deliver faster, to be able to take up the challenge, and go and put up their hands to say that I will do this, they are the ones who are actually getting ahead today than those with those traditional degrees. Next slide, please. And if you think about it, so what are the in demand skills today? The in demand skills today, these are, again, as I would say, a disclaimer, these are skills today. But tomorrow, the world is changing so fast that there'll be much more that is going to come on to this. If you look at technical skills, and these have been skills that have been staying for some time. So while the actual tool and may change, but the skill as such remains the same. So data analysis and visualization has been there for quite some time now, and it is something that is still growing, because there is a lot of need on this as data comes, and there is cloud computing, there's cyber security. And as the world becomes as we go digital, and as we go transform ourselves digitally, the world becomes more and more the people who want to actually hack your systems are becoming smarter and smarter. And therefore there is a big need for cybersecurity, for companies to actually safeguard their data. As much as today more than data being the new oil, it is data is the gold. And therefore that is where the competitive advantages of having secure systems. And of course, AI and machine learning. And as I said, AI is actually it evolved from data science to become AI and machine learning, the ability to process things faster, the ability that it used to be just numbers before that we used to model. Today, with the onset of LLMs from the big techs, it has become ubiquitous for all of us to actually have Gen AI. Gen AI and agentic AI are now reinventing most of the processes that or the world as we know it. And those are the hot technical skills today. But as we have the hot technical skills, there is also a need for more and more, as machines do a lot of work, there is also need for human centered skills at the same time, for having high emotional intelligence, because it is no longer your ability to actually do things faster, crunch numbers faster, because today the machine can do that faster than you. But what we need are, so if machines can do many of those tasks, then what do humans do? We need humans to actually have a high emotional intelligence, the ability to actually be able to understand people, the ability to work with diverse people, the ability to include different kinds of people and grow together is what is sought after today. Communication and collaboration, and since most of us are working remote or on hybrid, it is more and more important that we are able to talk to different people of different cultures. We are able to actually work with different styles of working, whether you're an introvert, extrovert, whether you're a rational thinker or an emotional person. We all bring all ourselves to the work, and the ability to actually communicate and collaborate and be liked actually is become a very important skill today. Critical thinking, as we sit and say, we type questions to chat gpt answers, but it is also important for us to be able to say whether chat gpt or whatever is the tool that we're using is giving the right answer. And if not, because you see, machines are machines, they are going to have hallucinations as well. So therefore that critical thinking is something that we expect that human beings to have, and because that is what will differentiate you. If you let AI become your god and follow whatever AI says blindly, then where are you as a human being adding value? So therefore critical thinking becomes even more important, and today most of the schools are actually thinking that that is the most important skill that we need to teach children today. And adaptability, because change is here whether you like it or not. We are all working in the heart of change today, because the world is, I mean, we do want progress to happen as technological advancement happens by leaps and bounds. So therefore our ability to actually adapt to all those changes, and therefore the dynamic world around us, is where it becomes very important as a skill for a human being. And of course business oriented skills, as we grow digital, most of us are not actually no longer using any of those traditional media anymore. So therefore digital marketing, most of us are on our devices, and therefore we look at our news on devices. We understand the world around us through our devices. We talk to our friends using devices. I mean, when everything is through devices, therefore and we live as much in the virtual world, if not more, than the physical world. Therefore digital marketing becomes very important. Product management becomes a very important skill, as we look at developing high end products. In fact, the ability to actually work with ambiguity, the ability to actually be agile, be nimble, and all these become very important. And that's where product management as a business oriented skills becomes important. And of course financial literacy, and today it is expected most of us now actually do day trading in India. And all of us are actually know about stocks. Today in schools also there are competitions on for who gets the who's able to make the most money through stock trading, etc. Financial literacy is very very important, as much as, and the ability to do your own taxes, etc., is also something that is a very important business oriented skill. And if you look at, and so these are the common skills, in demand skills across industries, whether in terms of technical, human, and business. But then there are also industry specific skills. For example, healthcare. It is important to know telemedicine, because today we become hybrid and remote, so therefore the doctors also can actually do that. And in fact it is saving so many lives. We no longer, I mean, the differentiator was that you had to come to the city, big cities, because you had good doctors that you can approach. But now with telemedicine, that barrier is being broken, and as the doctors come to you rather than you going to the doctor. Health informatics, similarly in finance, blockchain, risk analytics, In manufacturing, robotics and predictive maintenance becomes very important. And for retail, and most of us, most of us as consumers already know that all those things that we never used to buy online, we started buying online with COVID. And after COVID also, many of us continued to buy those things online purely because of convenience. And I, for one, I started buying shoes online, and then actually I continue to buy them online, which I would never dream of pre-COVID. So therefore a lot of things have changed in the retail consumer world, and therefore the e-commerce strategy and customer insights, and all of us moving to quick commerce and things like that, the customer insights also become very important. So these are some of the in demand skills that are there across the industries. And today, if we have to excel, and if we have to actually, I would say, not only excel, it is about survival. I would keep saying that, because you see, more and more these are something that is being expected, that anybody who's in the workforce has to know. And therefore this is no longer a luxury that somebody else will know and I will learn later. It is about being ahead of the curve and learning today first. The next slide, please. So therefore it becomes very, very important that you create a personalized learning roadmap for yourself, because yes, all of us don't know everything. We have chosen, for example, an area of study, but then we may also have to actually bolster that with other things that we learn as well, so that we can actually be the people who have that competitive advantage over our peers, and therefore become the first right of choice by any employer. So therefore, the first step is self-assessment. Know what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, and what are career goals. This is very important, because, as we say, this is actually being self-aware. In fact, is the most important thing. While we all need to know everything, and we can aim for that, but then there are certain things that we are much better at than others. And I, for one, always believe that it is about maximizing your strengths. Yes, you should work on your weaknesses and be able to improve them. However, it is also, but if you have to get ahead in life, it is about maximizing your strengths. So work on your, so in fact there are a lot of good tools here, like the Clifton Strengths analysis. In fact, most large organizations, including Accenture, use that to actually be able to understand yourself. And this is not only for understanding yourself, but also in working in a team, because you see, the your strength can be paired with somebody, your strength can be paired with somebody else's weakness, and then the two of you become a powerful combination together. So therefore, understand self assessment is very important. And then and once you've assessed and you say that yes, I'm very interested in working in retail, and this is what, or rather or in AI data analysis, and being a data analyst is what is my career goal. If that is the case, what are the future needs? As I said, it is not only about knowing what is there to be done today, but where is the industry moving? As I was giving you my example of, because I quickly realized that though I was doing marketing operations, I knew that technology is going to come over. I knew that data is going to come there. Data driven decision making is what is the future. Therefore, I built myself around that. And doing marketing data driven decision making, or marketing, doing that around, using data science in marketing. So this is what I actually pivoted my career to, or I could say shaped my career towards. So therefore, being abreast of the industry trends, and then doing a skill gap analysis of where do you stand versus where the market stands today. If, for example, if you want to be a data analyst, and it is important that you understand the AI tools which are used today, because the good old days of actually coding everything is no longer what is expected. With vibe coding and a lot of these coding tools which have come into place, it is important for you, and it is expected that you will be able to turn around things faster. And if you do that in the same good old way, you will not be fast, and you will actually get left behind. And then it is about prioritizing, what can I do today, what can I do in the midterm, and what can I do in the longer term. So that is what creating a personalized, that is what it entails. And I'll give you some, we will discuss some tools basis which you can actually do that. If you can move to the next slide. This is the most used template, which is called the smart upskilling template, which is first it starts with setting up smart goals, right? And that is specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So that is the first step. So how do you set up so I think the first step to setting once you have decided your objective, once you've done your self assessment, then the next step is to decide what is it that you would want to do. And as I said, the short, medium, and longer term goals, and then you go about using a smart upskilling template. For example, if it is about so it has to be specific. So for example, it should be a clear and focused learning goal. So example is I want to learn, as I said, I want to become a data analyst, so therefore I want to learn Python for data analysis. Second, it should be measurable, so therefore it should be so I want to learn Python, but then I need to mention how many modules per week will I do, and what is it that I aim to score. Like for example, complete 3 modules per week or 2 modules per week, and be able to score 80% or 90% in the quizzes. And then think about what are the tools that you can use. You can use tools like Trello, Notion, which can help you in progress tracking. Achievable. The third thing is it should be something that you can actually do. I mean, you cannot dream that, you know what, I'm going to work 24 hours a day, I would do this, and still spend 6 hours per day doing it. Think about it, you will fail the first day. It's just like, many people's new year resolutions, right? All of us start with that big bang. The first week is all spent in the gym, and then it goes fizzles out. The reason is because we have set up too high a target, and completely change ourselves, which is not really possible. I think we have to be very realistic on what is it that we can achieve, and set those achievable bite sized goal. It is always success begets success. So if and that is a great driver. You said you set as yourself a bite-sized target, you ace that, you feel good about it, you have a dopamine release, and then you go to the next. So that's how it should be, and that's the third part of being achievable. Fourth is it should be relevant. Whatever you've thought of, it should be aligning with your long term career interests and current job needs. So therefore, it is important that if these are things that you want, for example, if it is say for example the Python example that we were giving. So you said that I want to learn Python. It is important for me. I will be able to measure it. I'll be able to achieve it. But it is also something that is important. Python should be something that is relevant for your career as well. For example, you want to become a marketing manager. So learning Python may not be the first choice. You may actually want to do Canva to improve your brand design skills, right? So that could be the thing. And the other way could be, for example, you want to become a data analyst, so that you're learning Python. A good way is also to discuss this with your manager, and you go and tell your manager, if you're already a working professional, to say that, this is what I want to pivot towards. Are there any opportunity towards that? Maybe today I'm working on this, but 6 months hence I want to actually move towards that. And therefore, actively find a role for you. So make it relevant for you. And then, of course, it should be time bound. There has to be a sense of urgency. You have to say that, I want to finish this by so and so date. And that becomes a very important need for you to set those deadlines. So that is an example of a smart upskilling template, which could be a tool that you can use to create your personalized learning plan. And then of course you can look at, and so so this is how you would achieve it. But then this is also what are the resources that you would use. You are already on to our online Manipal. I'm sure there are very interesting MOOCs here that you must be already using. Then there is of course Coursera, Udacity, others, and you can also get certifications from Google, Microsoft, and again on different aspects, right? And then you can look at and on a daily basis, if you want to keep yourself updated, you can actually do these bite-sized videos, podcasts, and apps as well, from LinkedIn Learning, etc. So these could be some of the learning resources and formats that you would use. And as I said, online Manipal, I'm sure, is also helping you in that aspect. Now, I would like to give you an example of how you can actually use AI tools for your upskilling. Today, as I said, the traditional way is to actually, sit ahead and learn and do, and I would still say they're good. doing by learning is the best way to learn. Actually, in a lot of cases, that is actually what would help you. But then, can you do things faster? It's like saying that, people used to use typewriter, then they started using computers. But then, and things could become so different. And the whole research report, I remember that, when I was in college, my dad used to say that, why are you looking at Google to actually do your report? You shouldn't be looking at Google. That is like cheating. You should actually go to the library, look at 10 books, and then get things from there, and then create your report. But I use Google. But then today I'm seeing ourselves in the same cusp. And Google those days was not as updated as it is now. Today, of course, there is a whole lot. It's become a vast load of information. But that is the same way that you see the early days of the internet is what I see now. Where with the is the early days of AI, I would say, that where you get actually a lot of, whether it is Chat GPT or Gemini or Claude, or whichever one that you use for your perplexity, etc. But these are the things that you should use. Though, of course, as I said today, I would still say that whenever you use anything, apply your critical thinking to it. It is not just about just blind copy paste, because that doesn't help anyone. It's not about just submitting that assignment. It is about what is it that you learn from that. Because remember, whether you or your parents are spending money on this, so therefore it is you are responsible for your own learning. But if you do not actually, and so therefore the ability to know your learning style and being able to use the right AI tool to actually help you there is what makes is the best winning combination, I would say. Let me give you some examples. For example, if you were to use if it is about code editing. See, it is one thing to learn how to code, but today, of course, many people are thinking about vibe coding, etc. So vibe coding as such, I wouldn't say it is bad. In fact, it's a great thing to be able to because why should you be if you are a non-coder, for example, it is not really that should not stop you from actually doing a lot of automation and being able to do, in fact, create applications as well. In fact, there are kids all the time. I mean, there are so many examples of small kids and 5 and 6 year olds being able to create their own applications really because of AI's help. But as I said, it is always important that being people who are learning this, especially who are into AI and computer science, should actually think about learning the code as well, and all the others as well. Because you see, as I said, whether you are doing BBA, MBA, any of the other subjects as well, it should not stop you from actually exploring AI. And therefore, the best way is to use these AI tools like Cursor. Now, Cursor allows you to actually talk to it in English and being able to generate code. It is able to do, for people who are in computer science, the whole thing of testing used to be such a massive, monotonous job. But today, with and documentation and testing used to be some of the most monotonous jobs that I've heard people actually ever do. But now with Cursor, this becomes very easy. You can generate codes, you can refactor your codes, you can actually generate documentation for it, you can actually do contextual search for it. So all this can be done using Cursor, and that is something that you can think about as one of the tools for upskilling yourself when you're doing and today it is good to, I would still say that, go under the hood. Like when you learn to drive a car, while you don't have to become a mechanic, but at least you should know some of the basics of what's happening under the hood. And that's what I would say. Ultimately, you have to drive the car, and today think about coding and automation as driving a car. So therefore, it is the use AI to actually do that, to use AI as your assistant, your co-pilot, to actually do these things. The next, if you look at it, there are other examples like Replit. Now, Replit is another sort of cloud-based assistant, which is AI assistant, which actually helps you in instant coding, coding, debugging, and also a lot of it is able to generate those codes from your prompts, is able to give you that you can learn a new code, also be able to create applications, web applications, using Replit as well. So this is another very powerful AI tool that you can look at, which can, again, as I said, you can create a lot of webs you can create your own website. You have to create your own application using Replit, and you don't necessarily have to code every part of it. And if you think about it, there are a lot of data scientists, and this is where, it is not about learning, it's also about unlearning and relearning. There are a lot of people who actually learned the traditional way. They are actually very they've actually a lot of they actually do not want to use these tools, because they want to still continue the traditional way. It is the same thing as people who knew typing didn't want to actually use typewriters, or you used to or those who are very good at writing, they hated the computers. But whether you like it or not, computers are here to they came in, and most of you were born in the digital age, so therefore probably you do not know of a time that existed pre that. But just as that change happened, maybe you can check with your parents or the likes, but just as that change happened from the typewriter to the computer, the same thing is today. The way that you used to code yourself, it is now changed to actually using AI tools to help you code faster. And those things that you would think that this would take 6 weeks to do can be now done in a matter of minutes or seconds. The next, and if you were to do research writing, there are other very good tools like Notion AI. Now, that is one of the powerful tools for learning generals, for roadmap planning, for your goal tracking. In fact, the smart template that I was talking about, you can probably use Notion AI for that. The similar thing it is for in terms of you're doing your grammar checks using Grammarly, Quillbot, etc. Especially for your, for your blogging, in fact, for writing books as well. Today it can all be, you can use Grammarly. But as I said, I would say that still there are children who actually, and my son would say, why do I need to learn spelling, why do I need to learn grammar? But I would still say it is always good to actually know some of the basics. You can build on it using Grammarly, etc. But I would still say it is always good to know basics of things, so that you can actually be critical of even AI. Sometimes AI may give you a wrong answer too, but if you don't know enough, then you will not be able to question that, and you will start accepting anything that AI gives as the gospel truth, and which it may not be. And again, when you ask Q&A, it's Perplexity AI or ChatGPT that who can actually help you, and especially if you have to submit your assignments and research, etc. Perplexity and ChatGPT could be those which actually help you with that faster. But again, as I said, always question. And today, in fact, most of the assignments and they look for whether it's an AI generated content, because the idea is not for just checking that. The idea is to say that, have you applied your mind as well? You can use the tools, but then are you a slave to the tool, or have you used the tool, or are you the master of the tool? And idea is to be the master of the tool. The tool should be something that allows you to, that helps you, but not be the one that actually drives you, right? So that's where we are in terms of AI tools. And if you can move on to the next, there are other examples as well that you can think of for creative and business. Of course, many of you must already be using Canva plus Magic Design. You have Adobe Firefly, you have Descript, you have Tableau GPT and Power BI, especially for BI and for advanced for visualizations, dashboards, etc. Again, for those who have been longer in this, and I can tell you myself that any model we used to typically say 3 months that we would take to do just a pilot on that. We would take for creating any dashboard, it will be minimum of 4 weeks. These were the timelines that we used to give people. But now with all the AI tools, it has become much faster, and that is what it is. It is about being able to do much more in less time, and therefore it puts a lot of onus on us to be able to pick up these things as support, learning these things so that we don't get left behind. We become more efficient, we become more better. It is not about AI do my job is replaced by AI. That is not the right way. The right way to think about it is, I can now use AI to do my job better. That should be the way that you look at AI, more as your co-pilot, more as your assistant, more as a jugalbandi that you can do with AI. The next, And then but if you think about it, how can you then choose the right AI tool? So again, as I said, it goes back to the basics of building your personalized learning roadmap. What is your learning stage and what are your goals, and match the tools to that. For example, if you're just getting started, you may want to use some with these guided platforms like Replit, Notion AI, etc. But if you're already at an advanced stage and you want to do things faster, then you can use a Cursor or a Tableau or a Firefly. So that would be where it is about using the as I said, learn use AI to actually help learn faster. In fact, that is what is the motto today. Do not fight AI, embrace AI, and use AI to upskill yourself. Use the benefit of the AI tools to upskill yourself. In fact, one of the best selling tools today is actually, for example, you go and give up, you want to build your resume. Today, you ask Chat GPT, you ask Perplexity, instead of, I mean, it can give you a first expert view. You create your draft and say that, I want to apply for this job. Then it gives you a lot of good suggestions. In fact, I have seen those great feedback coming in, and I have been using that, and I found that really helpful, because this is the easiest way to get feedback. And each time you want to rewrite, you can work with it. There is so much help that AI does instantly, and therefore that ability to actually get that feedback faster. But again, as I said, always use, at the end of it is always, you have to use a human input there. So while your drafts can become easier, you can always show an expert as well. But then what used to take number of iterations to get to a right stage, now with AI, that can be significantly reduced, and you can do things faster with that. If we can move on to the next. So okay, now I would like to actually, if you think about it, which is the most popular MOOC on Coursera today? And if you think about it, I don't know if there is a question that we can ask Meghna here.
We can. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so this is a question. Which is the most popular MOOC on Coursera today? So we read a lot of things on AI and the tools, etc. But if you think about it, what is the most popular MOOC today? And do we have any answers? Take a guess.
One answer says AI for everyone, project
Mhm.
management,
All good, but those
automated
are
testing.
specific skills,
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
yeah.
all good and all specific skills. But if you think something which is sweeping, which is actually something that is relevant for everyone in this world, and if we Siddharth, if you can just move to the next slide, is actually learning how to learn. In fact, this is one of the most powerful MOOC that is there. You can go onto the next slide, which gives more details. It is a course by Barbara Oakley, and in fact, if this is one thing that I would recommend that all of you should learn, because this gives you powerful mental tools on, because it looks at neuroscience and a lot of things to say that how can you learn better. Because you see, continuous learning and lifelong learning is, today we are all going to be lifelong it's no longer a tagline for people to say I am a lifelong learner. You are a lifelong learner today. All of us have to be. If we want to stay relevant, then we all are lifelong learners. There are going to be devices that you have to use. There was a point at which, my father retired in the early 2000s, and he would say, I don't need to learn all this Skype and all these things. I don't need any of these. But today, he's the first one who actually does video calls on WhatsApp. So because he picked it up, and then this whole thing about navigating YouTube for his news, for music, for everything, uh, they just picked it up. I mean, and it is going to happen. And today, whether you're a 20-year-old or an 80-year-old or a 90-year-old, AI is something that all of us are using. In fact, my dad, he's all close to 80, and he's already using Meta AI to compose many of his whatever messages that he wants to write. He uses Meta AI to actually help write it. So this is the world. So therefore, you have to be a lifelong learner. I would suggest that you should look at that Barbara Oakley course. But think about it, you have to be consistent. It has to be something that you do on a weekly basis. You can learn, go and join learning communities or forums, because that gives you a good that gives you a motivation, because it's like, when you run, and if you run together, it gives you far more motivation than, being a solo, being that solo person, riding against the wind. And then you apply, and then it may happen that whatever you want to learn, for example, for many of us, it is that I want to learn AI, I want to become an AI expert, but you know what, I don't get to use it because my job today is so and so, and I'm not, my job does not give me that opportunity to do that. But what you could do is, you can actually start doing through your side projects, or you can do what your, of course, maybe your job description does not require it, but you can always take up side projects that you do, or you can always do some volunteering things that you do it for free. Because once you do that, that is how you build that experience. And then tomorrow you can go up and say that, you know what, I would like to be a data scientist, or I would like to be a data analyst, or I would like to be a data engineer, or whichever is the, or I want to be an AI engineer because I've done XYZ. Though my job description was to do an operations, I'm an operations manager, but I want to become an AI engineer. So therefore, I have done so many things on the side. And then you keep a learning journal or a portfolio which can actually keep you motivated, just like you would journal your thoughts. You journal your learning as well, because that will tell you how far you have come. So these are so I would leave you with this, that this quote, as Alvin Toffler, he is a very famous American, writer as well as futurist, who said, "The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read or write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn." So that, with this thought, I would like to now open it for questions.
Thank you, Vijaya, for the very insightful and interactive session. I personally liked how you spoke about identifying careers in different domains and upskilling. Dear learners, it's now time to move the polls. Remember, everyone who answers all questions correctly will receive a certificate that you can proudly share on various platforms. You're now requested to answer the polls on your screens and respond based on your comprehension of the session. Please note that to answer each question, you only have 1 minute. So, Vijaya, I think we can move on to the questions. This is the last poll.
Yeah.
The first question being, how can HR from companies ensure that upskilling programs are aligned with both individual career goals and future organizational needs?
See, I mean, typically, I mean, of course, when HR is doing this, they are going to be talking to the business, right? I mean, and in business, the business teams are always looking at the future, because if we have to, it's no long, uh, it's no longer useful if you know only how to compete in today's world. You have to know where it is moving. So therefore, a lot of evolving skills, new skills. I think if you talk to the business teams, they would be able to tell you, where are the client problems today, which are the areas that, what kind of skills are required for that, what are the kind of hiring that they would like them to do. So therefore, these are the areas on which, and you would have to work very closely with the business teams to help build that learning plan, and then get the people to, and develop that NND plan accordingly. So that, I think, is a very important thing today. I think also making HR only responsible for developing the learning plan is also not right. In fact, today I think most progressive organizations are actually asking the business teams to actually come up with the learning plan as well, which HR can then work with them to actually enable. And also look at some of the global trends which are happening, and there are lots of reports which come also as to what is the next. And today, if you think about it, I don't think anybody can look at LinkedIn without seeing Gen AI and agentic AI being mentioned. So therefore, it is very clear that, at least from that aspect, it is something that is going to have far-reaching of impact across industries, across processes, across functions, and therefore these could be some of the must dos which you need to must the need to have sort of courses that you must have as part of your learning plan. I hope that helps.
Great. The next question being, I want to change my field but do not have any network. How do I build network?
Okay, now the question is, it is not network alone that is going to help you change your field, right? I mean, the most important step is to first to actually have the skills. Think about it. Do you have the skills for the new field that you want to pivot to? That becomes important. And then once you have narrowed in on that, then you start looking for the learning communities which exist around that. Then you start looking at who are the most skilled in this area, in those areas. For example, AI. So if you look at AI, you want to become skilled in AI, for example, then you look at who are the leaders who actually have AI as the important skill. I mean, LinkedIn today is able to give you such if you search by skills also, it is able to talk about various people who are skilled in these areas. Look through their profiles to see what is it that they have, and what have they done, and then see if there is a way you can actually start following them and building your network with them. And then so this is from a virtual perspective. Then the other aspect is also to find out that if there is any organization or a third or a industry association which is there, or a learning community that exists in this area, and see how you can actually go and physically actually enroll and be part of those. If they hold conferences, seminars, etc., then make it a point to actually go and attend those seminars and conferences, and then network with an intent of actually making those relationships. And the third thing is within your own organization also, your organization, your college, these are gold mines. And look through to see who has the right skills, or who is actually doing that role that you want to move to, and see if you can actually strike a relationship with those people. I mean, the whole thing is about networking with an intent. The whole thing is to actually actively seek mentors, actively seek people who can be your mentors and your sponsors as you want to move to the to the new to the new area that you want to. But as I said, you have to lead with skills. You have to lead with learning of skills for that area as well, not just a wish that you want to just pivot. I want to change because I believe that that role gets more money than my career. That should not be the way you have to think about it. You have to be more pragmatic about it, in terms of thinking whether the skills that is required for that role is something that you can do as well. And if that is the thing, and you believe that you are it is aligned, and you would take the effort to do that learning, then only proceed in all these directions to pivot your career. Hope that helps.
Thanks, Vijaya. Moving on to the next question. With AI and automation reducing demand for repetitive tasks, what reskilling strategies can be used to transition mid career employees to new roles?
That's what I mean. As I said, if you were, for example, a tester, right, and therefore now with all these AI tools, the need for testing has significantly manual testing has significantly reduced. So therefore, think about other areas that you can actually upskill yourself. Maybe it is data science, maybe it is data engineering, maybe it is prompt engineering that you want to upskill yourself in. So look for these adjacent or related areas that you can think of, and then upskill there, because these are the roles that are, just because testing has gone away, prompt engineering has come up in a very big way. Now that is a key skill which has become important for people to learn. So there is always there, and then there are others where you're saying we need more product managers, we need people who can understand end to end rather than only one small area. So therefore, for every role that is going, there are other roles which are opening. So therefore, it is for the mid for people who are in the mid career, actually look for the ones which actually align with your strengths, your goals, and then start learning those. And as I said, if it is not coming directly through your work, look for side projects that you can do, look for volunteering opportunities that you can take up. And for example, with all this there are a lot of competitions that happen as well, hackathons that happen as well, so which you can participate in. And in many cases, in most organizations, when hackathons happen, or in public forums that hackathons are happening, it is the mid-career people who have actually made a shift, who have actually gone in and then come up with their thoughts. They are the ones who are winning it, and then they are finding a path towards that. So this is how I would say that look for adjacent skills, look for the new skills which are coming up, and then form a personalized learning roadmap for that, and go ahead and look for ways to actually get yourself into it.
Great. Learners will be, I'm sharing this slide for the correct answers. So the correct answer for the first question was 2 to 5 years, option C. Second one, option B, emotional intelligence. And third, C, option C, ChatGPT. We have time for one last question, Vijaya.
All right.
Uh, would you be able to suggest an example of smart upskilling in the field of fintech?
Okay. In the field of fintech, I mean, specifically, I would not call myself an expert in that area. So, therefore, to be able to give you a specific example would be difficult. But definitely, I would say, since I am from the AI background, I would say AI in finance is taken over in a big way. Look for tools that will actually help you there. I would certainly suggest that you should upskill yourself in AI, because that's going to help you in fintech for sure.
That's all the time we have for today. We hope most of your questions were answered. Learners, before you leave, please provide us with feedback on this webinar by completing a survey as you exit the session. A recording of this webinar will also be made available on the LMS if you wish to view it again. Thank you once again, Vijaya, for this invaluable session. I'm sure our participants have learned something new today that is both informative and useful. And a big thank you to all our learners. It's been great to see this level of participation. Thank you and have a very good evening.
Thank you, everyone. Happy learning.